So today I'm going to show you guys how to do a dumbbell RDL or kettlebell RDL, it doesn't really matter. And this will be very similar to if you have a barbell in your hands, or sometimes I even have people do a trapper RDL. So an RDL is going to be an exercise that works the glutes, the hamstrings, and the lower back. But you shouldn't feel it 100% in your lower back. So what we want to make sure that we do is that we move through the hip. And at first, for people, because in daily life we usually never move around the hip. So usually what we do when people bend over, they bend their knees too much or they round their back. So I'll go. So a couple cues to help you get through this is if you think about relaxing your knees, don't naturally try to bend them, but just relax them. Make sure they're not locked out and stiff. And then think about taking your ass or your tailbone and drive it to the back wall. As my back stays flat. Now some people will ask, like, how far do I go back? You're gonna go back as far as you can while still moving through the hip. So what you'll notice is that eventually what ends up happening, if this is as far as I can go, if I can go any further, I have to compensate in two ways, which I don't want to do. I either have to bend my knees more, so then it turns more into a squat move, which is not going to work my butt or hamstrings as well, or I'm going to round in my lower back, which might irritate my lower back here. So this will depend on your mobility. As I push the hips back as far as you can, and come up. So if you're very stiff with the knees, and you have barely any bend, you're going to get more hamstrings. If you have a little more of a bend than that, you're going to get some glutes. So let me kind of show you. So here, this is probably going to be more hamstrings. If you bend the knees a little more, this is probably going to be more glutes here. So depending on your goals with that. So as you go back into this hinge, you want to feel like a big stretch in the hamstrings and your butt. The better stretch that you can get in that, the bigger benefit you'll have from a muscle building standpoint. So remember here, hips, drive through, nice and tall, squeeze the butt, extend the hips. Now if you have good movement, your back stays flat, and you still feel this in the lower back, what we want to start focusing on is bracing the abdominal. So what I'm going to do is I want to take a breath through my nose, and what I want to try to do is tighten my core. So what you want to think about doing is you want to think about pushing your ab muscles out. Now what can help with this is, like, if you look at like a weightlifting belt, this is what a weightlifting belt does for you, because anytime you push on the abs, they contract. So what you can kind of do to practice is tie a band around your waist, and then what you'll do is you'll breathe in and see if you can stretch the band, push that band out. And that's going to brace your core and just create a lot more stability here, and you'll probably feel this less in your back. So if we put everything that I just went over together, right, nice and tight, hips back, just like bend the knees, big stretch, and come up, right? And especially when you're learning this, don't rush through the movement. Really focus on coming down slow, driving the hips back as far as you can, and before you can explode out, right? So that's how you do an RDL.